Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode 52 of the On Air Advocate. We're at the On Air Advocate. We look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am very, very thankful that you are either here this afternoon catching it on the live, or whether you are catching this on the replay. Now, as many of you know, at the On Air Advocate, we do follow a focus week. And this last week, we have been solely focusing on the lack of youth and adult changing tables in the U.S. And so, as you guys know, I like to take all different aspects of that. And so we have had on some organizations and some campaigners out there that are campaigning for them across the United States. We've also had some parents on talking about their journey and mission. And now today, I'm really excited to have here Carla. She is the Maxability Marketing Director. So they are a distributor for the adult changing tables, as well as she is a mother and has been a caregiver that has traveled a lot of this journey. And so she's here to share it with us kind of from both of those aspects. So welcome, Carla.
Thank you, Tammy. It's good to be here.
Great to have you. So wondering, how did all this kind of synergy, everything kind of come together with, you were already a special needs mom, you had a special needs kiddo, and that was going on for you. So you were experiencing these things in real life. And then Maxability seems like it would be like a direct correlation to that. So how did that all come to be?
I'd been taking care of my son for, 20 years, I guess. But unfortunately, my marriage fell apart, so I needed to find some additional work aside from the full-time work of taking care of my son. So I answered a Craigslist ad that was appealing because it was work from home, part-time, flexible hours. And I could make my work time fit around not just the care that I needed to give Bond, but also all of his doctor's appointments and therapy appointments, and then the things that go bump in the night and all of that stuff.
Right.
So it turned out that the interview was with Lee Kaufman and Maxability, and that, in fact, their focus was adult changing tables for special needs clients. So it seemed like a match made in heaven, and it indeed was. And my role there has blossomed and bloomed. And then when my son passed away a couple years ago, Lee was able to morph my position into a bigger role, and I could continue to work for him full-time, managing the website and also getting very involved with the Changing Spaces campaign that Sarah was talking about. That's been really exciting to find out about and to be able to help not just Sarah, but all the Changing Spaces ladies that we've found across the country.
Now, for yourself, before we kind of get into Maxability, all they have to offer, some of those statistics that we have briefly discussed, what was the journey that you found with your son with the same challenges that so many? And I know you have other kids we had discussed, and what were some of those things that you came against?
Well, so Bond has an older sister and a younger sister, and they were all within 5 years of each other in age. And from the outset, when he first got sick, it was important to me that we were a family. We were not the family with the special needs kids. We were a complete family, and that we did all the family things. But you can't do that when you can't take one of the kids to do all the things that the families do, to go to Great America, to go to the beach, to go to the movies, or what have you. And of course, that was way back in the 90s that I was first challenged with this, and things like Facebook and the internet even weren't really there as resources. So what we ended up doing was a divide and conquer. My husband would take the girls and do the things that they wanted to do, and I would stay at home with Bond. So we missed out as a family, but I think there was also a great missed opportunity for all of these places, we would have spent money.
What?
There's also the commercial aspect of it. And I was listening to Sarah, and I've heard Sarah's story a couple different times now about the stadium saying that they would do it and then not doing it. And I think there was even a moment where she got that conciliatory pat on the head and saying, "Oh, you're such a brave mom."
Right.
And I don't know how many times I've heard that, and I just want to kill those people. Because it's not a question of being a brave mom, it's a question of doing what you can, the best that you can for your kids. And it's not just that we're trying to help this one kid. Of course we are. But we're also focusing on our families as a whole, and even the extended family and all the people that would go out and do things and spend money, but they can't, so they stay at home. And those commercial venues think that that this is one mom with one kid, and don't realize that there are
they don't realize
a lot of moms, and there are a whole lot of people with elderly parents. And there are a whole lot of people who maybe they're vets who came back from the war and wars and have injuries that keep them from being able to be out in public the way they would if they could take care of business.
Right.
So it has huge ramifications.
Right. And I think that you speak to something that we haven't covered yet, is that when you have multiple children, I have friends that have a child, but they have one child and they just don't go anywhere. Well, now it's not only you as a parent, the siblings are missing out on experiencing time with their other siblings, or they're missing out altogether of the family going, or like in your case, the family is dividing and not going together. So I think for so many of these huge establishments, zoos, malls, airports, stadiums, all of that, you don't understand that these parents have already figured out that there's no place to change there. So they're just not patronizing your business because they, don't know. And something interesting is that in this last week that I've looked at is that there really isn't any type of website or somewhere you can go where you can look up and say, hey, does this stadium have this accommodation, without going through all of the layers of like calling, talking to someone, seeing where it is it convenient to get to? Is it conducive if they're in a wheelchair or there's another issue going on? Will that fit? Is it right? And so I think that that's something in the future that really needs to happen too, as businesses, step up and establishments do, is there to be some hub for people to be able to go to figure out where can they go.
And the Changing Spaces campaign, all of those moms who've gotten all of their friends, whether they have disabled kids or not, to be connected on Facebook. Now all of a sudden you have a tremendous audience for, let's face it, PR. If we, at the Pittsburgh symposium that Lee and I were just at, we talked to a representative, the ADA coordinator for Universal Studios, and he was quite interested in seeing what could be done to bring a fully accommodating restroom to Universal Studios with an adult changing table. Okay, let's say he does that because he's a really good guy and he talked to us really well. And now all of those Changing Spaces ladies can post that on their Facebook pages. And now there's a huge audience that knows Universal Studios is getting behind this project, we hope, cross our fingers for the future. And there's a tremendous amount of PR and community goodwill that can be engendered from doing this, not only because you're serving this relatively small community of wheelchair users who need to lay down for their changing business, but all of the other people who go, wow, yay, how forward thinking is that? I want to go to Universal Studios now. I want to support that business. I want to support that stadium. I want to support that zoo. Not necessarily because I have the need, but because I appreciate what they're doing for the community overall.
Right. And I just think it's a win-win for everyone. And as I've spoke about this week, it's kind of mind-blowing to think, when we talk about places that are billion-dollar complexes and
Yeah.
multi-million dollar complexes, that the fact of the matter is putting in something that ranges from $2,000 to $10,000 into your establishment would be that big of an ask for human dignity for all, because we've
Yeah.
all come into those situations, or we will in our lifetime. Because what is that saying about being a caregiver? You are either you were once cared for, then you'll be caring for at some point in your life. And if you have not experienced that yet, whether it is with a child or an elderly loved one, it's quite a quandary to be in a situation where you cannot clean someone up. And we know that that is not an easy task when we're over 50 pounds,
Yeah.
to do. And, giving people that human dignity, for that. And so no one is asking for those small establishments that,
Right.
are your little restaurant that has 5 tables in it to be doing this. We're talking about big places that every single person in the United States should have the right to go and the right to have
Yeah.
human dignity and be clean with that. So on to Maxability. What kind of statistics do we have that, have gathered? What do they all have to offer as a company and their mission?
So yeah, Maxability started it back in 1993, I think, when Lee Kaufman decided to take he worked in hospitals prior to that and saw the need, saw these products that even now there are a lot of people who don't realize that a height adjustable adult size changing table even exists.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons why we were at the ADA symposium this year and last year. And these are ADA people who specialize in this field. And we're getting a lot of people that were like, wow, what a good idea. So that's been a big part of our challenge. My specific job and my challenge is to just get the exposure out there and let people know that this exists. So our focus continues to be special ed classrooms, special ed restrooms, and adult daycare centers, obvious places where having an adult changing table would be beneficial. But then, the recent, I think you mentioned on the other shows, the recent focus on the single stall restrooms, the family restrooms that are large enough to put an adult changing table in. And I don't care about the politics of what other people are talking about with these single stall restrooms. What I care about is using that space efficiently so that it accommodates everybody. Take that baby changing table out, put an adult size changing table in, and then you're good to go for a lot of people, whether they're wheelchair users or not. Anybody who needs to lie down in order to take care of their business.
Right.
So that's what we've been focusing on the most recently. And again, yeah, even like you say, we're not looking for the mom and pop kind of place to put in an adult changing table, but I'll give you an example of Selma, Alabama. The YMCA there, the town of Selma and the YMCA there had decided that they want to be on the cutting edge of disability accommodation, not just accessibility, but accommodation, so that you can get the wheelchair in the room and then you can do what you need to do once you're in there. And so the YMCA bought one of our first changing tables that's designed specifically for a public restroom. So it's very vandal resistant. You can bolt it down. It's not going to go anywhere. Nobody's going to be able to hurt it. They put that in a specific room and then communicated to the whole town, the whole community, that anybody who's coming into town who wants to spend some time there can come into the Y, whether you're a member or not, use that facility so you can stay in town longer. So that's, that's definitely it takes a village sort of mindset that will get this project done. But for an example here, for just throwing out some numbers that I looked up, there are over 2,200 rest areas with restrooms on our nationwide network of highways, those lovely rest areas. You're going to travel with somebody who is in a wheelchair, and we encountered this all the time. We've got the wonderfully outfitted van where we had a lift where you could lift our son out of the van in his wheelchair, put him back in, tie down the wheelchair, but no place to change him once we got him out. So just a rest area with a restroom that had an adult changing table in it would be great, right? So even if you are traveling an hour or two to get to the nearest Six Flags, you know, you can take care of business, go to the park, take care of business before you drive home. Great. How many of them have adult-sized changing tables? None that I know of. We've got an advocate, Sabrina Kimball, working in Florida. She's been working with their Department of Transportation. They are working hard to try to make that happen, but to my knowledge, it hasn't happened yet. Whereas in Canada, they have regulations now so that all the rest areas across Canada have adult changing tables so that people can be accommodated. There are over 400 amusement parks in the US. There are 227 sports stadiums that range in capacity from 20,000 to 100,000 people that can be in those sports stadiums. In the shopping malls, as of 2010, there were over 100,000 shopping malls. But in comparison, Maxability has installed 40 changing tables in public venues. Now, we're not the only people who sell adult-sized changing table. We're the only ones who specialize in a full spectrum of them, and we're the only ones that offer this specially designed specially designed for public restrooms changing table, the OmniMax. So, and you know, if you want to buy from our competitors, no, it's not. But you know, I'll face up to reality.
Now, how many, I want to get back to these statistics, but how many other distributors are there that distribute in the United States?
We have maybe 2 or 3.
Okay, so there's not a ton of.
No, and they also they don't really focus on adult changing tables. If you go to their websites, you have to dig to find the product.
So if you're at 40, let's say that they're at 20 a piece, you know, as being smaller, maybe even 10 a piece. So maybe, guys, out of the whole United States, there might be 80 places or 65 you can stop. You know, that's just insanity. It really is. And especially because you can dual purpose that with using it as a baby changing table as well. Definitely. So why in this day and age, you know, we spend a lot of time on restroom issues, have we not made this a bill that gets passed? You know what I'm saying? That in those large areas, in stadiums, in malls, in airports, that it's mandated that there has to be at least one. I mean, because you can't imagine that if you're going to a huge basketball game, there's 100,000 people that are there, that there's only one person that has a loved one with them that might need that accommodation. You'd have to know that out of 100,000 people, you'd have quite a few people that would utilize it if they were there, or you have that other percentage that you just lost all their business because they're not because of it.
Right. I think that's the crux of the problem, is that the people who have that need just stay home. They know they're not going to find the accommodation that they need, so they just stay home. So they don't go spend their money at the stadium. They don't go spend their money at the zoo. They don't go spend their money at the shopping mall and the food court and what have you. So there's all kinds of business opportunity there. And, you know, we are a free market society, so showing that there is money to be made if you can accommodate all of these people, I think is a worthwhile.
And being able to publicize it. I know that when me and Sarah were on the show the other day, I had people drop below, as well as we drop below everywhere in our general area close in Wisconsin that is having them. We have a new huge Bucks arena that is being built. It's almost finished. And they did put the accommodations in, thank goodness. Because our other one did the 6 million in accommodations and they still haven't, and so really shouting out those businesses in those places so that, there can be some type of formulation and these businesses learning that they should be proud of it. I mean, I don't know for myself, why aren't they putting it out there? Like, we're here to accommodate and help. So I'm not really sure on that, why they wouldn't, or if it's just something that they haven't thought of. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's that silent, the sense that there's people out there. The businesses don't realize the people that are out there, and maybe they don't realize the kind of, like I was saying before, the goodwill that they can engender by saying, yes, here, be on the cutting edge, be one of the first stadiums. You're only going to have a small window of time to do that, because pretty soon the wave is going to increase and everybody is going to be doing this. So why not be able to say, we were the first, we were one of the first to have full accommodation. And something else to think about is that one of the comments I get is, well, why is this a problem? I've never seen this a problem. I've never seen anybody changing their kid on the floor, what have you. And part of it is because people don't go out. I tried it a couple times, nearly broke my back, got disgusted about putting my son on even what looked like a totally clean floor. Plus, most of the stalls are open at the bottom, so you're not going to have any privacy. So we didn't go out. But the other thing is that because of medical advances, both for disabled children with CP, with seizures and so on, and also for the elderly, people are living a lot longer. So the age expectancy, the life expectancy for somebody like my son, who was very profoundly disabled and had a severe seizure disorder, it expanded dramatically. So there's a lot longer period of time that people are living and trying to be in their community, be in their families are trying to care for them, than it used to be even 20 years ago. So there's more and more people there who are not spending their money out at the stadiums and will continue to not spend their money when they could for a longer period of time.
Right. And now from Maxability's standpoint, you guys also, a lot of the tables that you sell are for just individuals right inside of their home, correct? I mean, do a lot of parents also purchase those? I mean, because that's when I talk about how inexpensive in the big spectrum of life this really is. If you needed something, this is not like an adaption that even you in your own home couldn't make for the cost of it. It's not like you're looking at a ticket of $50,000 right off the bat for something. But do you guys find that there's quite a few parents that do utilize these in their home?
We have a whole spectrum of changing tables. So there are some that will fit over a shower or a bath, so you can combine bathing with the changing. Those are quite popular for the home use. Unfortunately, and this is another area to work on, there was an ADA advocate, Pittsburgh, was like, okay, we got to work on that. Insurance doesn't generally cover this. Medi-Cal, Medicare, or Medicaid. I get all this mixed up.
Yes, me too.
They don't cover it, and I'm a realist, and with all the expenses that there are with taking care of a special needs child, my son got sick when he was 13 months old, so from that time. He was almost 25 when he passed. There's a lot of expenses and not very many of them are covered. So you got to make your choices. But and you only have to have your back spasm out once from that bend over to try to change them. Then you're out of commission for days to know how important that is. So most of our sales do go to, like I said before, special ed, restrooms,
Okay.
adult daycare, those
Right.
kinds of facilities where they're changing multiple clients multiple times over the course of
Right.
the school day or work day, whatever.
No, and I know that we talked about this last week as well. Some places saying, well, we have like an emergency, like first aid room, and there's a bed in there. And I think an important thing to bring up is if you have ever tried, like my son is 6'1". And after he had his last surgery, I was doing all that toileting. You try to pivot a 6'1" person. I'm 5'1.5", and get them down safely, and they're 230 pounds.
Yeah,
Without hurting yourself. And so I think, we don't have Hoyer lifts, which that is something that can lift up a person just
right.
rolling around everywhere. So I think that it's kind of insulting sometimes when some of these big businesses, they say that, like, well, we have this emergency room. Well, yeah, and then you will have another medical bill because you will throw your back out, and then you'll
Yeah,
be injured and not be able to take care of your child,
yeah,
or your loved one. And
yeah,
so that's where, for you guys, these tables actually against the wall lower, right? And is that
right.
electronic that it does that, or how does that work?
It's electric, yeah, yeah. They're all electric powered tables. And I have heard some discussion about legislation and how to write that up, and whether to just mandate that it be adjustable, not necessarily powered. And the problem with that is that, yes, there are changing tables that are adjustable. You can't adjust them while the person is in the bed. It involves taking a bracket out, moving it up a few
Mm-hmm.
notches, and put it. So you can't do it while somebody is in the bed. So that whole functionality that you're talking about lowering it so that a person can pivot, or so that you can make the transfer if they're not able to bear weight, and then raising it up to the appropriate working level, that functionality is gone if
Right.
you have a manually adjusted changing table. So when people are talking about legislation, or even just trying to pitch a, a venue, it's important to specify that it should be a powered changing table.
Right. Right. And
And,
I can
and
see that. I
like
mean, that would be also
the,
a big safety concern.
say again?
Right. That would be a big safety concern, I would think.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, because you can't move it with the person on it. And then if they get on it, it's the wrong. And if you didn't clip it in, especially if it's at a business location and they didn't clip it in right and the person fell,
Yeah.
then there would be all that other stuff that would go around it that wouldn't probably be great.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be great at all for that. So at this point, for Maxability, the way that you guys get the word out is more through all of these different types of conferences and stuff, and conventions for different
Yeah.
disability equipment, or what movement wise. And then I also wanted to find out, because you're in California, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In California, are there any bills or laws that are starting to be passed? I think that Sarah had mentioned something, that there is something that's starting there.
Yes, so a bill was passed a year or so ago. I think it goes into effect in 2020.
Okay.
I will confess I'm not as well versed in this bill as I should be, and a lot of the ADA advocates in the state are, frankly, a little disappointed that it doesn't have more teeth. It specifies for venues that are super huge, that are new construction, so there's no specification for retrofitting. But you got to start somewhere.
Right.
And there are lots. LAX has just put in an adult changing table. So
Okay.
there are venues and transportation facilities and so on that are just seeing the light that this is something that needs to happen, whether it's mandated or not.
So are you guys the first people then, for a first state that's had any type of bill that started to be passed, or are there other states that have gotten some passed already?
I know that the Sabrina Kimball, who I mentioned earlier, she's been working with the Florida legislature. There's another very active Changing Spaces mom, Candace Aaron, who is working in Georgia, and
Okay.
she's been very active trying to get things passed. She's also been trying to address the federal level, go to the Access Board, which is the first step of getting national legislation, the ADA code, changed. So there's movement happening.
Right.
I don't know of any specific successes that they've had, which
Okay.
is to say it isn't out there.
But it's a start. It's a start. California, Georgia, Florida, it's a start. And I know that Sarah was discussing here for Wisconsin, kind of looking at some of those other aspects of what others are doing, what they're asking for, what legislation is doing, and then trying to possibly move forward with some of those things in our own areas for things that might be, have worked or have passed. But we definitely have to start somewhere, and these numbers are staggering. And the bottom line is it's not okay. It's just not okay. There's just things in life that are not acceptable, and human dignity for all. And this whole week I've said, I want every single person, you walk into a bathroom and I want you to stare at it. Would you lay on the floor? Would you put your mother, your father, your kid on the floor? Even if you put a mattress down, even if you put a towel down, would you do that? And the answer would be no. And so I don't understand when it's not a big ask. This isn't like monumental for this to happen.
And if you're not a caregiver now, if you don't know somebody who's disabled now, that can change in a heartbeat. It can change in a car accident. It can change with a stroke. It can change in a moment. So this is something that has the potential to impact everybody. Everybody should be aware and thinking about it, because it could be you.
Right. I always say that in the blink of an eye, we can go from being healthy to being compromised, and then we don't realize all the things that we've always taken for granted. And there is just such a population. And those numbers that you threw out about malls, rest stops, so are we saying that no one that has a different ability or a sickness that doesn't allow them the the opportunity to use the regular toilet in the bathroom, that they shouldn't be able to travel anywhere in the United States? Is that what we're saying? It's quite ridiculous. It is. So with that, Carla, is there anything else that you would like to add? I am going to put down any type of, resources that me and you come up with, Maxability's link, so people have that as well. Anyone who's listening today, I do want, if you are in a different state, please drop below if you do know any places that are currently forward and moving forward and utilizing these adult changing tables. We'd love to give them a shout out and have their names drop below. But anything else that you would like to add, Carla?
We talked about an awful lot of things, so yeah.
I'll 30 minutes.
I will add this little shameless promotion department sort of thing on our website, max-ability.com. We do have a page dedicated specifically to universal restrooms. It has all kinds of resources. It has Sarah's a link to Sarah's news, the news piece
article
that she did, a bunch of videos, some from the Changing Places campaign in the UK. It has floor plans for suggested restrooms layouts. It's not all about buying our changing tables, but mostly just getting the information out there so people are thinking about it and thinking about all the ways that this impacts us all.
Right. And so that is, you go to the normal website, which will drop below. And then what tab is that on?
It's called Universal Family Restrooms.
Okay. So we'll note that. We'll note that below for everybody so that they know as well. All right. So on that note, thank you so much, Carla, for spending the last 30 plus minutes with us over here at the On Air Advocate. I'm so thankful and grateful that you have. I hope anyone who has listened to this on the replay or is watching this live right now, you too embrace the fact that this is not okay and that we are going to create change on this. So with that, I hope everybody has a fabulous rest of your day. If you want any more of our information, tutorial videos, or our podcast, hop on over to www.honouradvocate.com. Also, right at the top of this Facebook page, you can join our private Facebook community if you would like. We're there and we're waiting for you. So on that, have a fabulous day, Carla. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.